Republican presidential candidates Rick Perry and Scott Walker, Wisconsin Ranger. They have already hit the eject button on their respective campaigns, and other stragglers are eyeballing the emergency exit. So what are the do's and don'ts when you take the exit ramp on your way to the White House? Dana Perino is co-host of The Five. She's a former White House press secretary and the author of Dana's Do's and Don'ts. So let's get to some of these, because this is really interesting timing for a lot of these candidates. They're not going to make the main stage. I don't think they should have two stages at the next debate. Your first do is, when you decide to step out of the race, write your own resignation statement yourself.
Yes. So you mentioned Scott Walker, and actually when he resigned, he wrote that statement himself, and I thought that was the best thing to do, because at that point you're not giving a rote speech, you're not on the stump, you're speaking from your heart, and your supporters and the people that got up every morning to support you, they deserve to hear from you in your own voice.
Yeah, and it's a really bittersweet moment. I mean, you're bowing out of the race. People pin their hopes and dreams and sometimes millions on you, and when you can't carry through, it's tough. Now, you do say that you should signal who you think should advance or win the primary. Scott Walker didn't do that, did he?
So what Scott Walker did, though, is he hinted that there was a need for a coalescing for other candidates to push back against Donald Trump. Okay. So
do you think that's the same thing?
In a way. I mean, well, when you have 17 candidates, yes.
Yeah.
I think that you can't just say, okay, I think this one. I think that he was clustering and suggesting that there would be a better direction than Trump. Whether that's fair or not, but I think that it's worthwhile to say to your supporters, I know that you supported me. I'm getting out. If I were you, I'd follow this person.
And I'm surprised they haven't done that before Scott Walker's advice. We'll see if they heed that. You say, when you do drop out, do take a vacation.
Yes, I think it's really important to just press pause. I mean, that's a big deal. When you decide to enter the arena, it's a really big deal. You put your family through a lot, and you shouldn't just run to the next possible thing unless you really need, to earn some money right away. But I would say at least a week or not two with your family, no phones, no media, and just sort of reconnect with who you really are.
Speaking of running up that money and spending other people's money, what are your don'ts? Let's get to that list now. You say don't run up so much campaign debt. Campaign
debt is a huge problem for all sorts of candidates. I think one of the things that happened with the Walkers was that they were looking at their future thinking, we don't come from money, we don't plan on making a lot of money. He's going to be governor for a while, so they needed to get out before they themselves went into debt. It's just, if you think you're going to get into too much debt, you have to figure out how to protect yourself, but also the people that you owe money to.
And you say don't let your staff find out from the press first. Has this happened with either the Perry campaign or the Walker campaign?
As I understand it, a lot of people that work on the Walker campaign did find out, from Twitter that there was going to be a press conference, and then the New York Times breaks the story and confirms that Scott Walker is suspending his campaign. That was the first time that they heard about it. I don't understand the tactic. I mean, I understand kind of wanting to get out in front of the story, but I feel like if you have staffers that are getting up every day and spending 18 hours a day doing nothing but thinking about you and your well-being and your candidacy, that you owe it to tell them first.
Yeah,
the media will wait.
Raising money for you, investing their lives in your vision and leaving other jobs to do that. You're absolutely right. Get everyone in a room. And, your final don't is don't be embarrassed or ashamed.
I think that is a really important one, which is, I think if you're looking at 17 candidates, obviously only 2 are going to advance to the primary, a Republican and Democrat, or maybe an independent if we end up having one.
Yeah.
But don't be embarrassed, because it's just an amazing thing to have actually even entered into the race in the first place. Be proud of that. Leave with your head held high.
Yeah, and in any other election cycle, I think any one of these candidates, especially, hey, not excluding Rick Perry and Scott Walker, they could have been the most viable candidate in any other election cycle. This happens to be a really strange one. So who should get out next?
I think that if you are not in the top 10 at this point, you should probably take a look at these do's and don'ts list and start making your own.
Yeah, because that second stage is going to get pretty sparse.
And that still leaves 10. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm saying if you're not in the top 10, you should get out.
And is there more dignity in getting out early like Scott Walker? Does that preserve his legacy or future chances for running for president again?
Maybe for him. I mean, he's a really young man. He's got a lot of public service left in him if he decides to. But I think there's also something to be said of staying and fighting for as long as you possibly can, as long as you don't end up putting yourself into such campaign debt and putting a lot of other people into bad positions.
Yeah, because someone like Scott Walker, maybe people
also because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Did anyone really think that Scott Walker would be the second to drop out, or that Rick Perry wouldn't be in the race at this point? No. So if you're Chris Christie, you think, I'm staying in this thing.
And according to the latest NBC News Wall Street Journal poll, Donald Trump has lost some of that support. You know, we've seen how quickly Hillary Clinton's support has eroded just over the last 2 months. You know, 2 months from now, you're still a year from the election. So you're absolutely...
And you could be many steps closer to an indictment. For the next show.
Yeah, or Hillary Clinton.
What to do and not to do when you get indicted as a presidential candidate.
Well, I know what to do. Listen to Dana Perino's do's and don'ts, and this is an absolute must-see for these candidates. Thank you so much, Dana.
Thanks.
Awesome. All right.